Hi, hello, welcome to another video. This is one of my shower thoughts series of videos, and I'm going to be considering the question, was the compendium a mistake? Now, I know there's the old aphorism, whenever you see a video title or an article title with a question and the answer is usually no, the spoilers are, the answer is I'm not sure. I just want to have a noodle about it. So, just briefly, for anybody that stumbled across this and isn't like fully immersed in Kill Team, the Kill Team Compendium is a softback book. It was £25. I'm not sure why I've written £24. It was released on launch, and it had army lists for every existing 40k army in Kill Team. So if it has a 40k codex, it has a Kill Team equivalent, and there's an extra one for Kroot. So the Tau Codex has two different Kill Teams. It's pretty similar to the 8th edition indexes, if you remember those. So for those of you that don't, when 40k 8th edition came out, it was a totally new system, so it needed totally new army lists. All the codexes got retired, and they brought out these 5 books. I think they're about 20 quid each. And so if you had, a number of armies, you had to buy these index manuals for whichever relevant armies you had, and then eventually they got replaced with the codexes that were a deeper and a richer experience with stratagems and things in them. Why is the compendium? And there's going to be some speculation creeping in. This whole video is just speculation. That's why it's a shower thoughts video. So, like 8th edition 40k, it's a totally new game. It needs new army lists. That's fact. Some people have got really upset because the army lists used to be in the main book in Kill Team 2018, and now they're in a separate book. You've got to pay 25 quid for the separate book. And to hear, like, a lot of people thought that is like cash grab of the century from Games Workshop. I know that people like to have this mental picture of Games Workshop as a very ruthless corporate entity, and for sure they like to make money, but I don't think putting the rules in a separate book is just a cash grab. I'm sure they like the fact they can make extra money by selling you an extra book, but I think the fact they're in a separate book kind of is beside the point when it's not really that the money isn't really the main point of that. I genuinely believe that like indexes in 8th edition, they're kind of not the intended paradigm of the game. They're a get you by game. They're an afterthought, and I really believe if this game goes as I expect, and it is around this edition, Kill Team 2020 is around for the full sort of 3-year cycle. I don't think the compendium will remain in print for that full 3-year cycle. I really don't think that they're intended to be the main thing. And I know there's lots of people that don't like that. I'm going to get into that in a second. So, yeah. The problem with the compendium, and again, this is all my opinion, and if you want to argue in the comments, please do. I enjoy a robust discussion and a robust debate. But I think, first of all, it kind of stole focus from the bespoke teams at launch. You had the Krieg and the Commandos that looked really complicated, and I want to say that Orcs and Guard are a niche army. I suppose what I really mean is everything that isn't a Space Marine is a niche army, but there are a lot of people that wanted to play their existing kill teams, and a great proportion of those wanted to play a Space Marine kill team. But the problem with the compendium lists is that, as was talked about a lot of the time, the compendium lists don't have as much granularity as the Kill Team 2018 lists did for the same thing. Now, I still think that Kill Team 20 is a better game than Kill Team 18, even playing with the compendiums teams. I think that the solid rules reasons for having the teams the way they are. But it is true to say that the hobby side is not supported by the rules in the same way. What I mean by that is if in Kill Team 2018, what you really liked was, buying 4 or 5 boxes of miniatures, taking 1 or 2 models from each box, and then sort of putting them together using as many optional parts from all the different boxes to represent all the specialists, getting little bits of detail pieces to try and make someone that looked like a veteran and this, that, and the other. That element is not really supported nearly as much by the rules. If you want to play a kill team from the compendium for Kill Team 2020, you're buying 1 or 2 boxes of miniatures from a 40k army, building them basically as you would to play them in 40k, and that is all that you not only all you have to do them, all you really can do to them, because the rules granularity isn't there. Now, there's nothing to stop you, I know, like converting them, adding character, and putting extra flourishes on them, as a lot of people already do to their 40k armies, but I totally get it. People like having the rules kind of inspire them and support them to make cool things. I do understand that, but that issue aside, I still have problems with the Compendium. I think the bespoke meta is now establishing itself. We've got 4 box teams coming out. We've got two more on the way, and we've got the White Dwarf teams as well. I will say from my experience that the bespoke teams are more fun. Right, playing bespoke versus bespoke is more fun because when you're activating an individual miniature, you have things to think about. Every single model in a bespoke team, you activate it, and you have something to think about. Whether you want to, spend some kind of resource, or use some kind of special rule, or use some kind of ability on the card. Whereas when you're playing with a Compendium team, each individual activation does not always the most thoughtful thing, because you're often going to have at least a third of your team that's like guys with bolters, right? For a lot of Compendium team, you've got a guy with a bolter. He's going to walk over there and shoot his bolter, and that's going to be his turn. And the nuance of where he walks and who he shoots with his bolter is kind of the question, but it's a much simpler thing. There's not those abilities. I genuinely think that bespoke teams playing against each other are the more fun. And even playing with a bespoke team, if you're playing against somebody with a bespoke team and they're taking about the same amount of time to decide how to do each activation as you are, like, because you're both being equally thoughtful, I don't know, for me, that becomes more of a socially enjoyable experience. If you're playing against somebody and then you spend a few minutes thinking about what you're going to do, and then they just go, I go over there and shoot him, you'll go, it feels kind of perfunctory in that regard. I don't know. I'm not a big competitive player. I do like to go to competitive events, mainly so I can play games with more people than just my group, but I don't really have any big aspirations for winning. But I do keep a look at the competitive stats, and it's fair to say that it's only the bespoke teams plus the Custodes and the Harlequins from the Compendium that are what I would say to be sort of in the meta to be competitive. And I guess the problem there is you've got things like the Pathfinders. There's a lot of discourse at the moment about how the Pathfinders are really, really broken and how the Pathfinders really, really need a nerf because they're too strong. They are strong. They are probably the strongest team in the meta at the moment. But I think if you forget about the Compendium teams, just if you focus just on the various bespoke teams, the ones from the boxes or from White Dwarf, do you still think Pathfinders are that desperate for a nerf? Yeah, they're probably the strongest team, but are they so far ahead of Commandos and Novitiates? I don't see it so much. I think what makes Pathfinders really, really strong is with their shooting. They can reliably kill a model, like every turn. Like really, regardless of what you do with it, it's dead. And that's huge against elite teams. But I don't even know if elite teams are really the right way to think about kill team at all. I wonder if elite teams conceptually are a bit of a red herring because every single team that they come out with that's a bespoke team, whether it's in White Dwarf or whether it's in a box, is kind of around 10 models, kind of with a similar stat line, with loads of abilities on each model. I guess the Warp Coven, you can build them to be an elite team, but you can also take the Sangors that you're not pigeonholed into being an elite team. I think the idea of teams like Space Marines, like Chaos Space Marines, being in the meta and then getting really hammered by things like Pathfinder. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't think the discussions in the meta should be framed around the idea of keeping the sort of middling Compendium teams still in the middle. I think it's fine if things come along that utterly destroy those, because I think ultimately those Compendium teams aren't going to be relevant in a year's time. And I get that's upsetting, because I get that there's a lot of people that really enjoyed playing. I'd keep picking on Space Marine players, but if you look at sales data, it's a massive proportion of the community, right? I get that people love Space Marines and they love the Death Watch and they love all these different things and they really want Space Marines to be not the best necessarily, but pretty good. And they're not. They're not pretty good. Some of their fire teams are okay, right? Tactical Marines and Scouts are okay, but all the Primaris fire teams are just poor. And I don't know if we should be striving to curate a meta where those teams can try and cling on to some kind of relevance. And I think Games Workshop's kind of made a misstep. This is the whole point of the video. I think they've kind of made a misstep by releasing the Compendium in this way. I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens eventually with Marines. I still think they're going to do a Primaris Scout, and it will fit into that. It'll be like 8 models. It'll be like at least 6. It'll be the low end, but it won't be as elite as they currently are. And I think we'll gradually see a fading away of the sort of hyper elite teams. But that's just my speculation. So what else could they have done? And this is just something else to think about. Warcry, which is basically Age of Sigmar kill team. The game's a lot simpler, has a lot less nuance, hasn't got the line of sight system because it has a lot less shooting, right? But it's skirmish Age of Sigmar. Warcry launched with 6 Chaos Warbands. Like, they all came out in their individual boxes alongside the core box, and you could just buy them either the same week the core box came out, or I think it might have been like 2 weeks after the core box came out. You could buy all 6 Chaos Warbands. So Kill Team could have launched with 6 new teams. And I think that would have made the game better, right? If at launch we got effectively the Commandos, the Krieg, the Sisters, the Tau Pathfinders, plus 2 more teams like that, 6 brand new boxes with the full suite of rules that they have now. I think that would have made a much better game, but people will be upset that they couldn't play their guys. And I get that as well. I'm not saying people that are upset by that will be wrong. I think sometimes making the best game isn't the same as making the most popular game, bizarrely, because I don't think people get fired up. People don't. You need to get people to buy into a game before they establish whether the game's any good, right? Because whether the game is any good as a game will only be found out when enough people have bought it, and then the people who are really good at games have played lots of games of it, and then they will sort of say, this is a really good game because, or these are things that need to change because, and then eventually the people who are attracted to games because of their mechanical gaminess will come later. But you need to get an initial wave of interest, and being able to pick up and play with your 40k armies absolutely gets you that initial wave of interest. I don't have an answer. Warcry also came out with indexes for making warbands for its parent game, and that felt to me at the time like it was a management imposition that came along afterwards. I think Warcry would be in a better place if it had stuck with the Chaos Warbands. Now, in Warcry, I'm not a big Warcry player, I'm not an expert in how Warcry works, but certainly the people I know that talk about Warcry, they're all about making warbands from the Age of Sigmar lists. Those have kind of taken over, and a big reason for that is that they're much better. All the Age of Sigmar teams, I could be wrong, I'm not a Warcry expert, but all the Age of Sigmar model using teams in Warcry are just much better than the Warcry warbands or the Chaos warbands. Kind of brings me on to my, and this is total speculation. I've never worked for Games Workshop. I've never really had an unguarded conversation with anybody that has worked for Games Workshop at any kind of high up level. I've got a friend that worked in one of their stores for a while, but that's not really the same thing. But I think it seems likely, I'm speculating, I am totally, but it seems like the creative vision from the people who design the games is to play Kill Team 20 with the bespoke teams. And then the Compendium feels like a manager's come along and said, no one's going to buy the game if they can't use their 40k models or teams from the last edition. And that might be correct. Right? I'm not even saying that they're wrong and they're meddling and how dare they, and we'd have this beautiful, perfect, pure game if it wasn't for them. We might have a game that nobody liked and nobody picked up and nobody played. But I genuinely believe that if you're looking at it from a nuts and bolts, which is the best team, is this team too powerful perspective, throwing the Compendium teams into the mix and including them in your view of the meta is wrong. It's kind of like having your cake and eating it. I think that if you agree with me, and you don't have to agree with me because I am just sort of thinking about this, but if you agree with me that the idea from the games designer's point of view is that we're playing with the bespoke teams, right? I'm not saying that you're wrong if you like playing with the compendium teams, but to then say, well, we want to have this meta where all the compendium teams remain relevant all the time forever, I think that's you're hobbling the game more than needs to be done. I don't know, maybe. And I'm not sure where the White Dwarf teams fit into this idea either. I'm not sure because I reckon, and again this is a reckon, you had probably 6 teams, right? Because we're getting quarterly releases. So the first year of plastic boxes, I reckon you had 6 teams that were all play tested at the same time. Right, and they know what those 6 teams are, and the models are made, and the rules are made, and they're on the shelf, and we now know what 8 teams. I can't count. 8 teams. I reckon there are 8 teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 teams. 2 teams per quarter. 4 quarters. And we've seen half of them. The other half is there on the shelf in Lenton, waiting to go, waiting for when marketing says this is when we can put this out and it won't detract sales from this thing for this other game or whatever it is, right? I reckon they've got them done, those 8 teams. And then again, and this is like super double speculation, is it then possible that, if I'm the person that wrote the game and I don't really like the compendium and I kind of want to get the compendium teams replaced as quickly as possible, I then go, okay, well, can we put early rules out for the other races that aren't in those first 8, and can we get those out maybe in White Dwarf? I don't know. I genuinely think that that's the sort of situation that they're probably in. But this is all guesswork on my behalf based on like reading between the lines of slightly unguarded things that playtesters have said in various places and just kind of thinking about it in the shower because it is a shower thoughts video. I guess I'm finished rambling. That was a really speculative ramble. And I just want to reinforce my central point to the whole video. I'm not saying people are having wrong fun if they love a compendium team. I went up to the north to teach some friends of mine kill team, and everybody except me, I think, was using a compendium team, and they had great fun using their compendium teams because they're accessible, right? They got the miniatures already in their homes, and they pick them up and put them down and roll some dice and push some plastic models and have some fun, and that is beautiful and fantastic. I guess I'm specifically talking to the people who are really, really interested in what is best and what needs to be nerfed and changed and buffed. And I think those people that are interested in having those conversations probably need to disregard the compendium because I don't think it's intended to be a permanent part of the game. And other people have almost a totally opposite viewpoint to me. Other people seem to be persisting in this, and these are all Kill Team 20 people that were big into Kill Team 2018, I guess, who are persisting in the idea of, we're going to get elites and we're going to get commanders. I've said it before on this channel, I really don't think that's the way they're going to go. I really don't think they're going to come out with Compendium 2.0 and now you can take Terminators. I really don't think that's going to happen. I could be totally wrong, and part of the beauty of these shower thoughts videos is I'm just sticking out my thoughts, and then in the fullness of time I'll make a video and say, wow, I've got, don't I look stupid now? But I really, really think that we're going to be going down a road where people wanted to play the new plastic teams. I think ultimately, not even the White Dwarf teams, I think they're ultimately going to be replaced. They're like a halfway house between your compendium rules because it's the designers acknowledging, well, we haven't even finalised the models for their proper plastic team yet, so we'll give them something so people that love that range or that faction have something to play. And that's great. That's fantastic. But I really think the compendium is not something that you want to be centering your discussion of the game's meta around, if that makes sense. Right, thank you for watching. If you've made it this long, I think that's nearly 20 minutes of me just wobbling about something that occurred to me the other day. If you liked the video, unaccountably, then please click the like button, subscribe, and all those things. And I promise to upload something else next time, which is a little bit more concise. And I hope you have a great day wherever you are and whatever you're doing.